Record on computer. Here we go. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And we have a wonderful guest today, and his name is Joe Mcquillen, and he's here to talk. He's been here before. Joe has come to my radio station, and we've talked about his book, and it's called My Search for Christopher. And you know, this is a really sad story, but it's also an enlightening story, because it's nice that Joe has come to share this story with us. And before I get started today and bring Joe on, even though you can see him there, he came to visit me earlier this year, and we talked about what happened. But for those of you who don't know what happened to Joe's son, I'm going to read just the introduction to his book so you all have an idea of what we're talking about here. And then we're going to catch up with him and find out what he's been doing this year in 2019. So sit back and relax. This is Nancy Yearout, your host, and we're here with Joe Mcquillen, and I'm going to read you a little bit of what Joe's story is about here. So sit back and relax. On June 3rd, 2016, I sat surrounded by the evidence of Christmas. The tree was still up, there were holiday cards in a basket on the end of the table, and my son Christopher's new golf bag sat in the corner of the living room. It was a fine Christmas, one of the best. For some reason, me, my wife Sally, and I kept piling on the gifts. I even went back to the mall early Christmas Eve to grab one more cologne gift for Chris, a bottle of perfume for Caroline, and a shaving set for Will. So why not? It was already over the top. Everybody was happy, and we knew that Christmas with us all together would be remembered, and it will be. Along with a group of high school friends, Chris spent the night at one of their parents' lake houses in Wisconsin, an hour and a half away. A last hurrah before Christmas break ended and school started back up. Just after noon, I received a call from one of Christopher's friends, Scotty, whose parents owned the house, telling me that Chris was missing. When the group woke up in the morning, Chris and three of his friends were nowhere to be found. I had Scotty text me the address. I'm looking at the text now on my phone as I write this, Joe says, and started driving north. About 40 minutes into the drive, I received a call from Scotty's uncle that the authorities no longer called it a search, but rather a recovery, as all four boys had drowned in the icy lake. And what follows here is what happened after to Joe, and how he has contacted Christopher on the other side. Joe, welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Thanks, Nancy. I appreciate you having me on.
I'm so thrilled to have you on, and I get chills every time I read that. And it's been,
I got to tell you, I wrote it and I cry when you read it. You know. So.
God bless you. I know you still miss him so much, and
yeah.
It's been, let's see. So this happened in 2016. So it's going on 4 years.
Yeah, January 3rd will be 4 years, and we always have started as like an impromptu thing at the grave. The first anniversary, some of his buddies from college texted and said, "Hey, Mr. McHugh, can you meet us there?" And I was planning to be there around sunset with Sal, and I said, "Sure." We went earlier, and all of a sudden, 60 kids ended up showing up between college, high school, grammar school, neighborhood, and that's been going on. This would be the fourth year. So it ended up, I had a hockey cooler and some cigars for all the boys, and
I love it.
And then the next year, I brought a table up and had some hot chocolate and some Bailey's Irish cream and a cooler of beer, and then everybody came over to the house, and it happened again the third year. So, like all these things have become tradition. We're doing it again this year, and his wonderful, loving friends who have all graduated, got jobs, are all commenting, see you at 3:30 on the 3rd. Everybody will show up and then hang out at my house and our house and just celebrate their friend and my son.
Yeah. He was a really popular guy.
Well, I had 2,000 people at his wake. 2,000.
Gosh, look at what an impact doesn't it make you just happy that he had such an impact on people while he was here?
You want to know something crazy? Sally last weekend, we have a golf outing for Chris, right. And Chris was in the special ed program where he wanted to be a special ed teacher, and there was a program called Penguin Players, and it's for adults with disabilities, young adults with disabilities who perform. A lot of downs, a lot of emotion, and it's wonderful. And he was a mentor, and the first year they did it. So we raised money and have a ball doing it, and always in his honor. And so she went out there for Sally went out there for one of the Penguin Player performances, and they end up donating a check for scholarship funds for some of these special ed kids.
Yeah.
And half goes there and half goes to a place called Imbalance Ranch with teens with addiction, teen boys. It's a boarding school.
Right.
And they just dedicated a ranch house, or a new student living called Mcquillen Manor, to him. And so she went out to the frat house where he had, we had gone the first couple of years, and then the kids graduated. So she stopped by and moved. They went to a new one. So she expected, nothing. She walked in and immediately saw a shrine to Chris with a
wow,
with a poster up that said legends never die. And
oh my God.
And the pool room was still dedicated to him with the Bills poster and the flags and pictures. So it's amazing that going on 4 years, and his spirit, I think a lot has to do with his spirit. His active spirit is still so part of so many people's lives.
Well, yeah. And I wrote down some questions, and you were here on my show. I'm so glad you came back to visit me here, because
me too.
Your story was touched my heart dearly. And I've thought about you, and I've seen you on Facebook and all the different shows you've been on. And I think of you all the time, and I think of what a great soul you are to have done this, to have honored Christopher in such a way. And I mean that. I just think it's wonderful. And, coming up on the anniversary, how is the family? I mean, have you guys done any grief counseling? I never asked you that question. Did you ever have any?
That's a great question. So Sally's a therapist, and what she started doing is private practice out of the house. So, that's really neat. I mean, she had gotten her degree before we got married, then she raised the kids, and then she was working at different counseling centers, and then decided to do it on her own, she's amazing at it, which is really wonderful. So she goes to therapy every week, and the only thing about her doing the counseling at home is I can't walk around in my pink flamingo boxer shorts, or walk out. I play hockey on Sunday nights, so on Monday mornings I love to go out to the hot tub and just soak before I go to work. And that doesn't happen with people in the office. I don't want to scare them. And, and Caroline sees somebody. Will is at that 20-year-old age where I think
Will's 20, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
Caroline's 23.
She's 23. Okay, and
or 22. Excuse me.
And Christopher would have been
20. He'd be 25 right now.
He was the oldest. Yes. Okay. Okay.
He's 25.
Okay.
And to be honest with you, I've been in AA for 34 years, so I still go to meetings. I went to one yesterday. I go to a meeting a couple times a week.
And that helps you.
And
that helps you with this.
That's very therapeutic. Very therapeutic.
Okay.
And I'm still so vested in I appreciate you commenting that I'm good heart, big heart, but I tell you, I'm a different guy.
Right.
Than I was in January 2016.
Right. Right.
My commitment is to a different calling, a higher calling than it was before that,
Yeah. Well, no. And that's one of my questions, actually, that I have written down here, because I thought Joe has become more spiritual, and I wanted to ask, you feel closer to God?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you remember me telling you this, or if you read it in the book, but right after I had believed, I went to 13 years of Catholic school.
Right, I do remember that, yeah.
And I believed in God, the same way I believed in the Postmaster General, right? I just didn't really interact a whole lot. And when I got sober, I knew that a power greater than me removed the compulsion, right, at 28 years old. And I was a wild man, and at 28 years old, it was removed. So I believed that there was a caring God involved in your life.
Right.
But when Christopher drowned, I'd come back that first week. I came back from Wisconsin. There's so many details. The plots and funerals and receptions and
it's
everything,
stuff,
right?
Just all of it, yeah.
Dated all the stuff and readings and all, And,
we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, so I would get on my knees at the end of the night, as I do every night, and I say, "Thank you for keeping me sober. Thank you for my family." But I also said, "But I'm PO to you. You took my kid."
Well, I do remember you talking about.
So I did that for 3 days. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was mad at God until
Yeah.
finally he gave me the message. And what a good guy. He comes out, takes time out of his God job to give me a message that I didn't take your son. His recklessness and self-will caused him to come home early. And remember, I lost a son too. So at that point, Nancy, I knew that God wasn't this judgmental,
Right.
King Midas moving chessboard pieces around. I knew that he was the reason I was able to function during those dark times.
Right.
So yeah, my belief in God is very strong. And I know Chris is in the world that he's part of, and that I'm very grateful for that.
Well, and when you can you connect, like, I know you've connected, and we should tell the audience because I haven't really talked about this, but you started to connect with mediums because you knew that he was around. You started to seek out different mediums. And
Yeah.
how has that gone for you? And you might want to tell the beginning of the story, how it worked out, and then we'll talk about, I have some questions for you.
Yeah, really cool is that, 10, 12 years before, 14 years before, I had seen a medium, and it was really mundane because there was no sense of urgency. My parents, God bless them, I adored my dad. There was a whole chapter to my old man called Iron Joe in the book.
Yeah.
But my parents, left a kind of normal time. They did their job and moved on, and they did a hell of a job. They raised 10 kids, 5 that were cousins, and took them all in as family.
Wow.
And yeah, that was just amazing, and just a big loving family. Like I said, it's like being raised by circus people, but it was such a fun, loving existence that I wouldn't have had it any other way. I'm so proud. Like Chris, proud to be Mcquillen. He had the Mcquillen family crest tattooed on his forearm.
Oh,
as
wow.
Does,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, as does William now. And he snuck out, took Chris's ID the first year after Chris, and went and got the same crest put on, elaborate Irish crest. Nice. So. So I saw a medium, and at the end of the reading, she said to me, your dad's here, and he's holding a caboose, and he's saying railroad. Now, if you look over my shoulder, there's a railroad lantern between the two hockey jerseys, right?
Yeah.
We were railroad family. My dad spent 40 years on the railroad. Every boy worked on the railroad. I was a brakeman on the railroad. I went to work with my old man. That's who we are, a railroad family. So when she said he's holding a caboose and saying railroad, this was in 2000. This was long before anybody had Google access. And even if you did, there wasn't going to be for this, this blue-collar Irish Catholic hardworking man from Buffalo, New York. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. Dad's alive and well.
Yeah.
His spirit's there. And then I just put that in the file cabinet in my brain and moved on. So when Christopher drowned, right after, I reached out to that same medium who relocated to Surprise, Arizona.
We've got about 30 minutes to break. I'm going to go to break, and I want you to finish your story when we come back from break. Our time goes really quick. So it goes too quick. This is Nancy Yearout, your host, and we'll be right back on High Road to Humanity. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and we are back today with Joe Mcquillen, and he was telling his story. His book is called My Search for Christopher on the Other Side. What a good-looking guy. I always think that every time I look at the book. I always think, God, what a handsome guy. But you were telling us about the first medium that you went to see and how she picked up on the railroad. And
nothing else but that mattered to me.
That's crazy.
And so when he did drown, I reached out to that same medium, and amazingly, she said, don't get your hopes up. Spirits who cross this early generally haven't learned how to communicate yet. She came back and she said, this is crazy. She told me things that nobody knew, that I didn't know until I got the coroner's report. So she told me all kinds of things that Chris said and did. And bottom line is, at this point in time, I wasn't willing to accept a world without my son in it. Now, to be honest with you, I'm a blue collar guy at heart, right?
Right.
And I'm a facts and boots on the ground guy. So if this is all hokey BS, I just want to figure that out and cross it off, right?
Right.
And if it's not, let's pursue this. Let's attack this with a vengeance. And
I want to stop you for a second. I want to ask you a question because this is important to me because I'm a psychic and I do reading stuff for people. I'm not a medium, but I'm a psychic and I do. I guess I should say I'm a medium because I do connect with people who have passed. but I wanted.
So you are a medium.
Well, I'm able to.
Let's get that straight. That makes you a medium.
You know what happened? You know what happened to me this year, Joe? And this is after you and I talked. The more I've done this show and the more I've talked to people about all different spiritual things, it's like God kept giving me these shows. And the more I did these shows on High Road to Humanity, the more connected I got with God.
Sure.
And so then I would be in the shower and it started, I'm going to tell you this story because I've never told you this because I haven't seen you. So I was in the shower. It's probably maybe 4 or 5 months into my show. And my boyfriend from when I was younger, like 14, 15 years old, came to me and in the shower. And I'm like, what are you, in my head, you know,
why are you here?
I knew it was him. And I was like, what are you doing? I'm in the shower. And he's like, I passed. And I'm like, what? And I was just like totally freaked out. And then I looked it up on the internet and he had passed like 8 years ago and was just like in between.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to send him on, and I had to go to my teacher, and my teacher taught me how to send him to the light because a lot of times people get stuck.
Yeah.
And then the next girl, then I had another girl come to me like right after that. And it's always in the shower. It's always in the shower. You know, now I've learned to ask him not to come in the shower anymore.
That's funny.
But
well, he's still a 15-year-old soul. You know, it's not a bad.
No. But I've learned that once you connect with God and you really connect on a daily basis, and once you do this work, you can help other people. And what I've learned is that I have been able to help people pass and go to the light, to God. A lot of times they get stuck in the middle. Christopher didn't. He went right away to the light.
Right.
Sometimes people are afraid or they don't know where they're at, or maybe they weren't spiritual and they don't know. So that's been my enlightening experience this year. It's been huge, by the way. And one more thing I'll say before I end on this whole subject is about me is that I became closer and I'm more of a believer because of this. And I feel like I've helped people.
You go from a believing to a knowing. I mean, that's the difference. You make that. It's just a shift. It's a shift. You know, my wife, who is very supportive of all this, and she's, you know, very bright and very intuitive and very helpful. And she feels Chris. She doesn't have the benefit of the downloads that I get. And he adores her and talks about her all the time. But her friend, on the day of Christopher's golf outing, September 10th, her friend took her life. And that same night, I walked in, and we were loading the truck up after the outing, and she said, you know, my friend took her life, and you know, somebody who had been a dear friend and struggling with depression and such. And Sally was seeing a healer, which she does, and the woman said, "You have a friend here," named her, and said, "You need to help her cross over because she's afraid to let go." She had a daughter with disabilities, emotional disabilities on the side that Sally's kind of taken to, and she was afraid of letting go, that everything wouldn't be okay if she did. So it was amazing. Sally played me the recording. So
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You know, haven't experienced it myself, but I got to sit in the front row and listen to it happen. Yeah. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And that's, you know, that's when you're doing light work. You know, that's what you do. That's who you're supposed to be. I'm not a medium. You know, I have a connect with my son, and I feel him, smell him.
How do you connect now? I mean, okay, I know you must meditate, and I know you started meditating, and I know you bring in the light. How do you connect with them now? I mean, does it by writing? Because we talked about that.
Yes, and I still, you know what? Yesterday, I had a session with Susan Giesman, who's brilliant. Susan wrote Wolf's Tale. She wrote Still Right Here about her experience. She was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And retired to do this light work, and her and I she did an interview with me. I pursued her. Chris told me run her down. You know, so so she interviewed me, and then she offered to do a reading, and I let time pass a little bit, and we had it yesterday. It was wonderful. It was amazing.
Wow. So
I still take any opportunity. On my birthday, January 9th, which is the day. I don't like to celebrate my birthday. It's the day after my son.
Oh, you got to celebrate your birthday. Come on.
You know what? You know, we buried my son on January 8th. You know, so January 9th's not my favorite day. You know, so and I'm getting older. I'll be 63. You know, I'm rounding third.
You still look good. You still got all your
I'm rounding third.
going on.
You know, So I still do. And then a few nights ago, I woke up at 2:00 and started doing some stuff. And at 3:00 I sat down and I did exactly what you did. And it's kind of cool because I'm getting feedback from people who've seen like your stuff and all the interviews. There was a guy named David Moore, or Kevin Moore.
Kevin Moore, I know Kevin. I've been on his show, yeah.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He did a thing. I was the first episode of They Call Us Channelers. And it's on YouTube. It's got 50,000 views. Look at it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. He's freaking brilliant. And spent the night here. We went to the grave and we did half in my office here, half at the grave. Nice. And so you got to see it. It's the first one. It's just look me up on YouTube.
Kevin. And I know Kevin. So for sure. So people are sending back and saying, look, I'm following exactly your recipe. And mine was like, kind of like a stew, like, let's try this, let's try that. I do the same thing. I get up, I light some sage. I light a double candle because I believe Christopher and I are twin flames. I love that. I really like that, by the way. That's awesome.
Put different pictures around, which in front of me, whether he's alone as a baby, with a friend, with my sister who was his godmother who crossed last January. I do that. I then, cleanse, clear my head. I align my chakras, and then I start, I listen to meditation, either guided meditation or meditation. And then I get into a quasi trance and start writing.
Right.
I get down this, and they'll just be casual conversation like, hey, Pop, how you doing? You got to do this. And you got to let go of that resentment. It's not healthy.
He guides you then. He guides you. He's your guide.
He's very much like a spirit guide. I don't think it's his official title, but I think it's what he does. And he does guide me. And so I still do that. I do that a couple times a month, easy, 2-3 times a month. I'll get that. And I still entertain whenever I can the right opportunity to be with, I'll go to a spirit circle now and then. But the truth matter is I love one-on-one, like with you and me. I love with him and I, like most people as much. So spirit circles kind of wear on me, but I'll go and be of service. But the bottom line is those are the things, the little things that connect. I mean, certain places are thin places for me. This office is that you're looking at, which was his bedroom, the grave that we go to. He doesn't live at the grave. I know he doesn't live at the grave, but he travels with me, and our communication is really good there. Why? I don't have a clue. I probably won't know until I call.
The energy is good there.
The energy is good. Beaches in Florida at night. Why? I don't have a clue. I don't know. I just know that beaches in Florida at night, I feel him so close. It's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, and I'm going to address that. This is what I think. I'll just give you my opinion. It's definitely.
I love it.
Yeah, it's the water. It's definitely the water, because we are made up. And when I wrote my book, Wake Up, the Universe is Speaking to You, I researched water. I did a whole chapter on water. And we are like 75% water. And so we're energy and water. So it makes sense, because you told me this before, and it really makes sense that you would connect with him by water for that reason. Just because we're made up of water. So I could see that.
And there's something special about that body of water. Okay. I don't know, but the Gulf Coast of Florida, there's something very special about that for the connection.
About that particular area.
And then this year I went to the Sedona.
Okay.
And part of what I'm doing now is I am writing a second book. I'm in No Monster.
Are you?
Yeah, it's called
What's it called?
Now What? Now What?
I know. That's what I want to know. Now what? I love it.
So there's an Irish term that I stole called thin places, where the veil is thinnest between the both worlds.
Right.
And so I went to Sedona, and I did a 5-hour tour with this woman who was just really cool, and just with the crocodile, the old beat up leather hat, and not somebody, not some stage person. This was a real legitimate person.
The real deal, man.
Real deal. And we got out there, and we were in doing the tours and going to all these the energy spots. And she said, by the way, you don't know this because I don't tell people. I'm a tour guide. It's my thing. But I'm also a medium, and your son's been with you since we stepped in the car. She goes, he's beautiful, and he hasn't left your side, and he's really happy about the pursuit. So, I went there. It was good. I got to be honest with you. I thought the vortex would really knock me off my socks, and it was good.
But it didn't knock you off your socks.
No. Yet,
Yeah.
Then next summer I went to Lilydale.
Okay.
Last summer I went to Lilydale, which is the oldest spiritual community in the country.
And where is that? Where is that?
It's in Western New York, 45 minutes from where I went to college.
Okay.
Half hour from where I was, 15 minutes, 45 minutes where I grew up.
We're about 1 minute to break, but finish that up.
But Lilydale is the oldest spiritual community, and during the summer, everybody who lives there, owns houses, is a certified medium. That's all it is. You got to check it out. It's amazing.
Whoa, that is so cool.
There's a great, HBO did something called No One Dies in Lilydale. So look it up. It's on Netflix. And so I went to Lilydale and spent the night and experienced that, and that was incredible.
That was
just
cool.
Absolutely incredible.
Hey, listen, we got about 30 seconds to break, so we're going to go to break, and then we've got 2 more segments. So you guys, this is Nancy Yearout, your host, and we are here with Joe Mcquillen today. His book is called My Search for Christopher on the Other Side. I have stuff marked because I just love his book. And before we go to break, I got 20 seconds. I'm going to read this to you. It's in the beginning. It says, "Goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes, because for those who love with heart and soul, there is no such thing as separation." And that's from Rumi. I think that's great. This is Nancy Yearout, and we'll be right back. This is Nancy Yearout, and we are here with Joe Mcquillen. We're talking about his search for Christopher on the other side. Joe was telling me about this really cool place in New York where it's all mediums, and I'm going to have to definitely check it out. And tell me the name of it again, Joe.
Lilydale.
Lilydale.
It started in the 1880s, I believe.
All right, I got to check that out. That's
and
awesome.
Every home, everybody who's there has to pass these crazy tests, registered mediums. It's very accomplished. They have sessions every day. It's called a place called Inspiration Stump. They've done it for 100 years, where you go there and then you'll sit in these benches in this circle, and they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 mediums just generally just doing their thing.
Right. They tested me too for the one. I have one that I'm on, and
cool.
I was on for a little while. Yeah, and they tested me before I went on there, which was kind of interesting.
I went to Inspiration Stump at 3:00 in the morning. I brought my daughter with me. I was going to Buffalo. We were having a book signing, and there's a television, hometown TV station that wanted to do an interview, and it was great. I did this book signing at a place called Hall Walls on Delaware Avenue in Buffalo, and kids from Little League showed up, high school. It was just amazing. Sold out. It was so. And my favorite part of all this, Nance, isn't talking about me. It's talking about Chris, and then Q&A. And like always, 40-50% of the audience had lost kids. And just wanted some answers, wanted some
closure.
Inspiration,
peace.
or just hope.
Yeah.
So I walked out of that thing, Chris and I flying high. So it was just a fun trip. And then we always go up to Canada for a family reunion, where where we rent houses, like 40 Mcquillens up there, and it's just an amazing experience.
That's awesome. I want to know, what's Christopher say he's doing on the other side?
Yeah, great question. So he's working with kids.
Okay.
He's working with kids on the other side, basically kids who are confused and scared. And I've been told by all kinds of mediums that he's like a Pied Piper, always has been. He was always one of these guys that kids were just attracted to. And he was just a jerk to his sister and brother. But he was always so patient and kind with other kids. Kindness.
I remember you talking about, he mentioned kindness was so important on this earth. I remember saying that.
3 things are important. Henry James. First is to be kind, the second is to be kind, the third is to be kind. And I think that, if anything else, I've absorbed that since this event much more than before. Much that I understand the importance of the impact of your actions and your caring and your words. And your words.
And your thoughts. Has he talked to you? And I just want to ask this because this is Nancy being curious. Has he talked to you about Jesus? Has he talked to you?
What's funny? He's talked about God. And what he said about God is that we're all God. that there is a God, but we're all part of God. We're all God. Never gotten into Jesus. And it's funny, one of the first book readings I did, a woman said, has he said anything about Jesus? He had to have said something about Jesus. I said, he hasn't brought him up. And he goes, oh no, he had to say something about Jesus. I said, maybe just hasn't bumped into him yet,
Yeah.
So, so he hasn't brought up any deity. He has brought up, I think, the feeling that, we're all part of this big thing, that there is this source, and that's God.
Well, and I believe what you just said. I believe we're all little gods and we're all little creators, and we actually have way more power than we give ourselves credit for.
Christ said in Matthew, this and this much and more you can do in my Father's name. When all the apostles were oohing and ahhing a miracle, and he said, you can do this too. In my Father's name, and it's in my Father's name.
Right.
So I believe that too. I think we're all sons of God. I think, he said to me, we get a kick out of you over here. And I was like,
oh, really?
I was like, who's we?
Everybody,
I know it wasn't me saying this, because I'd have known who we was. Was it him and his friends? Was it him and who's we? We get a kick out of you over here. So I do believe that we're all sons of God, and I feel very loved by God.
Yeah,
but I think Christ, the anointed one was the favorite son. It's kind of, it's kind of like the favorite son in the family. And I think there are other ascended masters who were in league right behind him.
I agree.
That all hold, high levels of places. And I just don't necessarily know if you get to hang out with Jesus and Buddha when you're going on 4 years in your journey. But stay tuned, because he and I stay in touch all the time.
So, do you ask him questions like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? As far as your family or your own path, or, the new book, those type of things.
Great question. I mean, really great question. So when I'm meditating and he's channeling with me, I'm dictating. I'm just taking down messages. I'm going with the flow.
Okay.
When I'm with a medium, I'll ask questions. I asked Susan Giesman, a couple of questions, and so those are the questions that I ask him when there's this flow that I'm confident the communication will go back and forth. I'm still, to this day, this has happened, going on 3-4 times a month for going on 4 years, and still worried that something could cause a connection to break. So, I believe you.
Never. Because the energy flows, man. I can tell you for sure.
And he says that. He says that too. He said that through Susan Giesman. She goes, he's never going to leave you. And then this was cool. She said, he's showing me she's showing me the pyramids in Egypt. Okay. And why she's showing me that is, he said that he can do that and still be with you, which means you're not keeping him from anything on his side, which was really reassuring. I don't want to be keeping him back from promotion and grades. And he told me at one point, he said to me, look, I'm being promoted, I'm going to a different level. He said, but don't worry, Pop, it's not going to hurt the communication. He said, it's like a long distance call from Tucson or Los Angeles. It's the same clarity. Doesn't matter how far.
And if you think about, and I want to say this to you, that's exactly right. If you think about radio waves and how we hear the radio, and you don't see the waves, but in the end result, you hear, from the energy. And it's exactly the same thing.
That's great. That's really great. When people ask me about communicating with people they love and say, well, how, I've done this. And I said, what have you done? What have you done to enhance that connection? Right. I mean, remember the days when, cell towers, you'd lift a phone off a balcony to try to get a signal? Yeah. Right. Well, it's the same thing. You've got to do something to clear the waves, the waves, and to make it work. For me, it's always 3 o'clock in the morning. Can't tell you why.
Well, they say that's when spirits are most active, and I don't know why either. The energy is the strongest. But I believe, if I could get everybody, I know that this is what I really think, Joe. I just want to throw this out. After all these shows I've been doing this, I think you know, our whole thing is down here to learn and to grow our souls. And I think eventually the whole idea is for us to all connect with God.
I do too.
And once we connect with God, then we become all one again. If that's Nancy's philosophy.
I think Nancy's theory is amazing. And I always felt that God made me an alcoholic so I could find my way back to him. And so, you know, doing service, helping others. And then it got to a whole different level when I was given this gift of communication with my son.
Right.
And kind of like in the pro AA, is that there's a saying that says you got to give it away to keep it.
Right.
And that's how I feel about this gift I'm given. If I hoard this, I might lose it. Right. So I've got to extend myself to the mom and dad who just lost somebody and don't know what the heck to do. I've sent out, you know, boatloads of books and just sent them out, you know, to people who need to see it. You know, you can go on to Amazon.com, by the way, and get the book.
Yes, Amazon.com, you guys. It's called My Search for Christopher on the Other Side. Just so I ordered another one of your books. I'm gonna have to have you sign it one of these days for me, Joe.
Send me your address and I'll just send one out to you and sign. I send them out all the time. I mean, you know, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
I got to follow the breadcrumbs, man. I mean,
right. No, and I hear you. I totally hear you, because when I became intuitive and psychic, you know, my husband's like, oh, you don't want to do that. And that could be weird. And, you know, but it's what you said. I have to do it. And he's gotten better, but I have to do it regardless of what anybody thinks, because that's what God wants me to do, or he wouldn't have given me the gift. And he wouldn't have given me the wanting of bringing people like you on the show to expand everybody else's minds and to help us all a little bit here on the planet. I mean, that's what I really think, Joe. Honestly.
I think you're dead on. And you know, and believe it or not, there's not that many skeptics. You know, they say that 75% of the people on Earth have had some sort of metaphysical experience, right?
Like with an angel, or with a person that was an angel, or
angel, you know, a spirit, a family, loved one sitting on the end of the bed. So I think
I got one more thing, Joe. I got to tell you. I gotta tell you this. Well, because I miss talking to you, because we have so much fun. I got 2 minutes to the break, but okay. So my father,
I'm not breaking. I'm just going to keep going.
No, you have.
I'm breaking. I'm breaking. That's it.
So my father was in New Mexico and I was in Texas, and he was 89, and his quality of life had really gone down. And I had a show that morning, and I couldn't get to, the night before, I couldn't get to New Mexico quick enough. I made the flight reservation and everything, but I talked to him on FaceTime, you know, thank God for FaceTime. So I said, I said, Daddy, I love you. Thanks for being such a wonderful father. You were, you know, I couldn't have asked for a better dad, and that's the truth. And I love you, and go do your thing. And he had such a hard time walking, and he couldn't hear. And it's just his quality of life had really diminished. And my daughter was there, and we FaceTimed, and I came out of my bedroom, and I walked into the living room, and I sat down on the couch next to my husband, and I looked up, and I saw my dad standing there, young, blonde hair, jeans, shirt. I swear to you, I can tell you exactly what he looked like. He was there for a split second, young, handsome, muscular, and he did the wave. He went like,
I'm gone. Adios. Adios. I'm a ghost.
And that was the biggest gift that God has ever given me, because it made me know for sure, because I've seen it now with my eyes, and it gave me closure with my father, and it touched my heart, because I got to see him for 1 second. I got to see him, and I told my husband, he's right there. And he's just like, what? And I'm like, no, he was right there, and he's gone. So anyway, we got one more break here, guys. We'll be back. This is Nancy Yearout here with Joe Mcquillen. We're having a great time. We're on High Road to Humanity. And we'll be right back here in a few minutes. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and we are here with Joe Mcquillen today, and we're talking about his book, My Search for Christopher. When's the new book come out, Joe?
I'm in no hurry. I mean, if you look behind me, there's a stack this big of research. I've written a few chapters. I'm really kind of enjoying the process. I mean, the first one was kind of an obsession to write it, and Christopher wanted me to finish it by Father's Day of 18, which I did. You know, and it got published by November of 18, which is insane.
Right.
You know, so it's been out a year and it's been received really well. And you know, I'd love more exposure, but we just keep left foot, right foot.
Right.
I want to tell you a great experience that kind of connected to what you had happened with you and your dad. So my sister Marcia, my favorite sister in the whole world, was a real source of love. She was an older sister, married when I was 5, out of the house, but real source of love for me. Yeah. And you know, and I always wanted. She was one person I just never wanted to let down. And so, you know, she was Christopher's godmother, and she crossed over in January,
right?
You know, almost a year ago, and they were really close. And the same just acceptance and love that she had for me, she had for Chris. She just adored him, right. And he knew that he could trust her, that she loved him no matter what, and that was really
unconditionally,
perfect example of the term, unconditional love.
Yeah.
So he had told me. So one of the first things is Marcia was a real source of love for me growing up. And so I was with her about a year ago, you know, before she died. She said, you know, she said, you gave me the greatest gift. I read your book and I'm not afraid to die now. She was dying of cancer. And she made the choice not to keep going with treatments. It wasn't working. And so Christopher said to me in one of the sessions, don't worry, Pop. And he would call me Pop when you know, and sometimes in Dad, sometimes. Don't worry, Pop. The minute she crosses over, I'll be there. She won't be alone for a minute. So it's so cool when you get validation that these downloads aren't from you.
Right.
So
right.
after she
from
crossed
somewhere
over,
else, right?
Right. And he said to me, Marcia crossed and we were all here. He named Jerry, Bobby, Pat, Marcia, Billy. We were all here, which were all her siblings, you know, my siblings. And she said they were all here across, but then she had to go somewhere. And I was like, what? He said she had to go somewhere because the trauma of her cancer, she had left her body behind, but there was still trauma. So she had to go somewhere to heal. He said, think of it like a spa. And he said, when she came out, she was even younger than when I was a little kid. You know, I never thought of going to a spa to heal. I mean, it's a healing place, and it was a gentle way to tell me about going somewhere where you heal and you cast off the remnants of this side, you know.
Well, yeah, because we get so much negativity, and that's why we talk about clearing our chakras and stuff all the time, because all that negativity attaches, and that's, I believe, you know, everybody argues it back and forth, but I believe a lot of times that's where the cancer comes from, because if you don't know how to clear yourself, you don't know how to get rid of some of that stuff, it sticks to your energy field. That's my feeling on that one.
And when she was dying, she would listen to my book on Audible at night in her hospice bed, which really made me feel so good. I was there with her. I was there with her a couple of days before she died. I flew home, then she crossed, and I came back to Florida to help the kids with the arrangements, and they're not kids. I mean, they're grown people with their own kids, you know. Yeah. But you know, Marcia's. I've been told by Susan Giesman yesterday, and by Andrew Anderson and everybody else, that Marcia and Chris spend a lot of time together with the rest of the family. You know.
That's cool. That's really cool. Well, and what do you think about that? Is that why? Do you clear your chakras every day?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yeah. You know, I mean, I literally.
I'm
not that smart, so I literally still take, a printout that I'd gotten from a medium, Andrew Anderson, and I have a couple of them. And when I do this stuff, I'll pull out different pictures that I printed up. But I always start with pulling this thing out and going up through the chakras, you know. And why? Because it's repetition,
right?
You know, and whatever worked, I don't want to break the chain.
Right. No, and I agree with that. You know, a lot of people bring the light down through their crown chakra, through their body. And I do that. And I had a lady on last week, and everybody's always talking about grounding. And it was interesting. She was a shaman. And she said, imagine 2 red balls at the bottom of your feet. And this was interesting. She said, bring the light down through your crown chakra and then ground yourself by bringing that light to the balls, bring it back up through your feet and take it back up. She said, think of it as a loop, just like an electrical loop. No one had ever said that to me before.
Yeah, I like it.
I did too. And she goes, because it's a loop. It's the energy coming down, the light from God. You ground yourself by imagining or visualizing those balls below your feet, which, you hit that, so it grounds you down. And then you bring up the light. And then what was cool was, she said, you bring up that light and you send that energy you don't want, up back to God. Because what she told me was, you're going to love this show.
I already love it.
She's like, I worked in this is what she told me. I thought this was so cool. She goes, I worked in a museum. And she's like a really calm person. And she's been a shaman for a long time, like 19 years or something. And she said, I would watch these people come into the museum and they were negative, and I would take their negative energy from them and take it through me, take it down and take it back up and shoot it up to God. And they would have the biggest smile on their face.
Wow.
And she said, I would do this all day long.
Wow.
So I started to realize that if somebody's in a bad mood, I know, right? I was like,
right.
Whoa. And now I realize that we have the ability that if somebody's really angry, whether you know them or not, you can take that anger, you can take it through yourself, you can take it back up and give it to God. And lighten that person's load. Now, what do you think about that? I thought that was cool.
I've done this for quite a while. When I got a problem, when I got a heartache, when I got something, that I'll envision, like a basket on a hot air balloon, and just putting those in there, and then just releasing those up. It's like, dude, this is on you. Tell me what to do. I'm going to do what you tell, but what you got to do is, when he tells you what to do, you got to do it.
Right.
It's a two-way street.
Right. Part of this is, the biggest thing here is to have faith in something you can't see.
Right. You know what? What is it? I got a great quote.
What you got?
It's about that, and I had it wrong for many years, but the basic is that faith is the song the nightingale sings before the dawn. Mm-hmm. How do these creatures have faith to start singing, and the dawn's come up every day since then? They don't sit around in doubt. Well, what if it doesn't come up today? We'll look pretty stupid. You know what I mean? They just buy into the program, and that's where I am on this. Yeah. People say, "Wow, it's a little out there." I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either.
And do it. And if not believing, makes you happy, float your boat. God bless. Except that,
aren't they going to be surprised when they get up there?
Well, I've done that. There's a shock jock, that I've been on his show, and we actually like each other. But he said, I just don't buy it. I think it's all bull.
Oh, no way. No way.
Yeah. And I said, you know what? And he said, I don't want to hurt your feelings. You seem like a tough enough guy. I said, I'm a tough enough guy. It's okay. I said, I got big shoulders. I said, but you know what? What I would do if I were you is remember what I'm telling you, because at some point in your life, you're going to need it.
Right.
Until you don't need it, just put it in your pocket, man. Tell your story walking. God bless. But when you need it, you got to find your way back to the source, which is God or Yahweh or whatever term you want to throw at his name.
Right,
it's all God. It all goes to the same place.
It all goes to the same place. What? So the new book, I want to talk a little bit about that. What are you putting in there? Are you putting in some stuff that Christopher has talked about, or are you putting in your experiences that have helped people?
Similar is that I've kept record of, like I did in the first book, every medium visit, every channel visit he's had with me, or spirit visit he's had with me. And then the experiences above that. Remember, I walked into that first book with very little knowledge of what I was experiencing, and kind of, which is kind of cool, because it's almost like a how-to book, right? You've never been through this, pick up the book. It'll give you some kind of grassroots guidance that I figured out, right? Yeah. With some help from Chris, and all the help from Chris. So the next book is that it's a continuation of every meeting we've ever had. And like I said, and back behind me is a folder this thick with every one that we've done.
Have you had some that weren't the real deal?
No. Everything I've ever had is, now I will tell you, I've had some medium experiences that weren't good.
Yeah.
but it's like saying to you, Nancy, have you ever gone into a restaurant and had an average meal? Sure.
Right.
Have you ever gone into a great restaurant and had an average meal? Yes. So yes, there's been experiences with some mediums that was adequate.
Okay.
But, and a lot has to do with, I believe, it's like coaching, right? The best coaching is when the coach connects with that player.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a teaching, right? A history teacher can connect with somebody. And that's how I feel about mediums.
Right.
That not every medium connects with me or my son.
Right.
There's one medium who's kind of a world famous medium, big shot medium, and it was pretty much no go, right?
Wow.
No bueno.
And you were surprised.
I was surprised because of the notoriety that went with this person, but the personality just didn't mesh. I'm looking at you and I go, this is fun because Nancy gets me.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I do.
But I'm an acquired taste, kid. Not everybody does.
I love it.
And my boy was a handful. So
I know. We got about 1 minute till the end of the show, but I'm going to tell you something. I've had so many people on my show and I've been so blessed with so many interesting people, and they all have gifts and they all have a story to tell. But yours has always stuck out with me. Just because it's so real and it's so down to earth, and it's so because everyday people need to get this. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a PhD. You're an everyday guy, and and we're just having a conversation about this stuff, and I just want people to learn and grow and know that this isn't it, man.
And if I can do it, Nancy. Anyone can. That's the message. That's why Chris wanted me to be this ambassador, right?
And you are, and you do such a great job, Joe. And I'm so thrilled that you've done it, and it's helped you. You look great, and I think it's helped you so much get through this, don't you?
Yeah. You know what? I have no idea how I would have gotten through without this mission.
I know.
I don't know. I like other people I've seen in this position, I probably just gave up.
And who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought?
He wouldn't let me.
Yeah, but you would have never thought you would have done this, Joe, would you?
No, it certainly wasn't on my to-do list. Hey, let's talk to your dead son and write a book. No, that wasn't on that.
Oh my God! All right, so we got to get going. But
I'm so grateful I get to still be with him.
I know you are. Cool. Well, because you'll always be with him. And before we end, that's a wonderful thing to say, because you'll always be connected with him.
Yeah.
You will. And just like I'm connected with my dad. There's times where I can feel my father around, and I know he's around. I get a chill.
I get a chill on the back of my neck and down my back. And I know he's here right now. He was here at 2:00 this morning. I know when he's there, and I just feel comforted and loved by him.
Right.
And what a gift. You get cheated in one way and you get something else on the other hand.
Well, you got to promise me you'll come back when you get the new book.
I will come back whenever you want to chat.
All right. And I want you to have a very Merry Christmas.
I will. Email me your address.
And
I'll shoot you out a Christmas copy of the book. How's that?
I will. And send me
Maybe I'll put a reindeer sticker on it.
Yeah, send me yours so I can send you a card. And Merry Christmas, and I wish you well, and God bless.
Merry Christmas. Namaste.
Right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.